All right, 3.
Yeah, so my last session with the couples client went pretty badly. So
Okay.
I was like,
how many sessions have you had? Is this the same couple that we did the supervision around last time?
yeah.
Okay.
So we like, apart from like the intake where we did individuals, last Friday was the 3rd session like that we had together.
Okay, so 3 sessions together with a couple, and then after individual with both of them.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so the last session went badly. How did the other ones go?
The first, like the first time we had them together, I realized I had like assessed maybe too positively. They're like, when we talked to them, when I talked to them individually, it seemed like they were already like pretty close to being de-escalated. So that session I had overshot.
In what way do you mean you overshot?
So I think I pushed them a little bit too much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Push them from the perspective of like thinking that they're ready for like a bigger risk than they actually were.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And like to be able to not just like it's the bigger risk, but also like to take in that there were still some blocks,
which is also a risk. As you're finding out to hear something in a way that's different than what your experience has been up until then.
Right. And then the middle session was okay. I was definitely I was better at navigating that, and I was a lot less tense because I didn't realize how tense it would be going in to that initial like session when I had them together. And,
you were expecting kind of calm, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So where did it shift? So there's 3 sessions since our last supervision. Where did you notice a shift from what you assessed it would be to kind of the bad, as you put it?
Well, the last session was like particularly bad because they came in the middle of a fight. And so like that first session when I had them together, I noticed like, oh, I like got way too tense there. That second session we got them let's
open that up.
Okay.
What does that mean? I know what it means for you to get tense, but you came in not expecting escalation. You got some escalation that first session, and then you're saying you in response got tense because you weren't expecting it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty conflict avoidant, like in my in my interpersonal life, and I think that definitely came out because I noticed my initial response was like, oh, I need to like quiet things down. Instead of like
those are good instincts. And what did you do in order to calm things down?
I don't think I did it very well. I was trying to go through like process questions, but I don't. Because I don't think I was able to like separate that. Anxiety, I guess.
So good learning. Maybe process questions are not ideal when a couple is escalated. Okay. And so one just quick shift is we sometimes call it referee mode that we need to go into, which is not process oriented, which is essentially being very directive. Not always, but if it gets escalated enough, it can be really helpful to sort of be the adult in the room.
Yeah. So definitely.
But it's an art, I'll say, on how to do it, because it's going to be different with each couple based on, most importantly, your attachment to the couple, what you're aware of and what you're capable of doing based on the level of security you feel you provide to the couple that are there in front of you.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think definitely like that referee mode, like being more directive, I got better at, and it was hard for me too because I tend not to be very directive, especially in the individual sessions, because most of the time I don't have to be.
But it's good. It's good that you saw the need for it. It's good that you saw the need for it. That's the key there. Okay.
And then it was okay. That second session when we met, it was okay. There was still like some blocks that I was trying to figure out. but we were able
What
to.
what do you mean? What do you mean by blocks?
Like so we got to a point where the guy said, he withdraws because he's scared that like if they keep going at it, there's only this has been said throughout sessions, but he said, like, there's only so many times we can say we're going to break up before we actually break up. And so like there's that fear, and so that's one of the reasons.
So you're calling the fear the block, or the withdrawing the block?
No, so the partner just couldn't take that in at all.
Okay, that's what you're calling the block, her not being able to take it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and I don't think I expected that. I definitely wasn't prepared for how like
just so we get specific, the part you weren't prepared for is how she couldn't let in her partner risking.
Just she was just like confused. She was like, well, he hasn't told me that.
Got it.
Where
and so that was her response. That was her response.
Yeah.
So I'm really confused right now.
Yeah. But throughout the session, she was talking about how she really wants more of that kind of stuff.
When she got it, she got what she asked for, experientially, she got like it took her back. It surprised her.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. That's very common.
Okay.
Just so you know, it's very common. Yeah. Just imagine this person, how long have they been together?
2 years now.
Okay. In 2 years, and they live together?
Yeah.
In 2 years of living together, however long, how many experiences on a day-to-day basis would they have had where that pattern was not the norm?
Right.
In the hundreds, probably, right?
Yeah.
So you've got hundreds of experiences plus your early childhood experience of people not giving you that, giving you what's the thing that she was asking for? Him coming forward, him like being emotive, or
emotive is probably
yeah. So she's not used to people close in her life being that way. Probably past relationships, childhood, right? People are distant, or people do things that are not that. So someone doing that is going to be very confusing. And it's also dangerous to let in.
Right.
Even though you've been asking for it, when you actually get it, it's actually quite dangerous.
Right.
Because there's something different associated with that for her.
Right.
Whether that's a cycle of when that does come, I'm not saying this is her experience, but I'm basing it off of past couples I've seen.
Yeah.
So the experience of when there's a calm, there's a storm right after. Or when someone's emotive, there's some kind of manipulation and pain coming after. Or when someone's like that, there's a period where we're connected and it's good, but it doesn't last very long. And so I can't really hold on to it, right? All of these are reasons why the association or the learning on a deep level is don't trust it.
Right.
Yeah. So it makes sense.
Yeah. I did try to like validate that initial response. It was just, I will say it did feel like awkward, trying to like tie the bow after that.
Yeah. So another thing is we think, if one person takes a really big risk and they share vulnerably and it's perfect, you're moved and you feel like, wow, it was amazing and it was a big risk for them. We think it's going to go well. Like the assumption is that it's going to go well when you first start out.
Yeah.
But in reality, it all depends on like their willingness. I'll say it's not a risk for everyone to let in a positive, vulnerable message. It's not a risk. For some people, it's exactly what you would want and expect, is that it would just land really well. It opens them up. But anyone with trauma, it's very difficult for that to occur the first time, even the second, third, fourth time. But the goal isn't about necessarily them letting it in. It's the ultimate goal. But in that session, the goal is just to track and to follow, so that the person taking the risk to share doesn't get that message of it's just a rejection. We want to understand why, for the person that took the risk needs, our job is to help them understand why it didn't land well for their partner. And that it's not in how they shared per se, it could be part of it, but a big part of it is what their experience is in the moment, which is not based on how the person just shared. It's based on everything in their past that they're filtering what's happening right now through.
Right.
So that's why we want to track it, so that we can create what I call like a mixed experience. It's not positive, it's not negative, it's just mixed. There's going to be quote unquote positive elements, that expectation that we want to have, the neat bow tying sort of experience. And then there's the confusing, uncomfortable, surprising, this is too much for me, that part that could happen as well. And we want to track both.
Right.
We want to go into one. I usually start with the positive aspect. Like, if you heard this, what's that like for you? Or when you heard this aspect, it was nice. Then there's going to be a but it also came with when I heard this. There's the part that she heard that was comforting, felt good, felt like it created compassion for him. Then there's the part that she heard that was triggering. Not because, again, not of how he shared it, but like fine tune. What did she hear?
Right. Okay.
Was it how he shared? Was it what was actually shared earlier before he looked at her and shared it? And she was stuck in that. Oftentimes that's the case. She's already triggered before he's sharing. And so it's kind of like when someone's talking to you and they go, oh my God, I'm so sad. And then the and or the but afterwards is because you did X, Y, Z, and you just hear the blame aspect of it. You were with it, you were keeping up with it, you were open, your heart was open, and then the but came up and it was all your fault, and the heart closes up. The person doesn't remember the first part, they only remember the second part. So our job is to help slow it down and go, oh, what did you experience when you heard this? And then where was the trigger? And what are we attributing the trigger to, right? And not to blame, just to understand. So that then we can go back and share with him, when I heard this part, this is what it was like for me. And then this part was really hard for me to hear. This was my experience. And it was because, and that part you might not actually have her share as an enactment, only the first positive part. That part you may actually share back to him, and you go, oh, does that make sense? This is why she had this response. She didn't hear what you just shared. She was remembering all those other times where you shared it in a different way at home, or her past relationships, or whatever you discovered, or her dad, or her mom, or her brother, or her sister. It's so hard for her. So what you're doing is you're helping him understand what you did was amazing. It was great. It was perfect. It took a lot of courage, but she couldn't let it all in right now. She let in a little bit, or whatever you discovered, right? Then what you're able to do is still help reinforce how what he did do is great. That we want more of that. It had nothing to do with how he shared. Sometimes it is something to do with how he shared, because like I said, maybe it's the and or the but, that she was able to hear the first part, but not the second part. Or she was able to hear the second part, but not the first part. Or maybe the first part she got triggered and she couldn't hear all the good stuff of the second part. You make it about what actually happened. You'll get good at, noticing it. And one maybe big tip for a beginner is have them, what they share, have it be really short. There's less to track.
Okay.
So that might mean you package it up a little bit, meaning you give them the context, you encapsulate what you gathered from what they shared with you. And then you go, can you turn to her and share this specific part? You kind of are like priming them just to share the part that was the most vulnerable without all the context. She was there for all the context because you were digging it up. She doesn't need to hear all the context. What she needs to hear when he's looking at her is the experience, the primary experience.
Okay.
That's the gold. That's what's going to increase the likelihood that she's able to drop down and give him the response that he needs in order to reinforce more of this, because it is what she wants. It's what she's been asking for. Right? Does that help?
Yeah, that's I think you said this like earlier on, but like that being able to like not like going for like mixed reactions, like I think that's like a really good thing. I think in my mind I'm like, oh my goodness, it didn't go like positively, like, you know, I was a little bit worried about.
And I think now that you have this experience, you won't expect positive, right?
Right. Yeah, it probably would be a lot less.
And also you don't learn anything from the positives. You just learned, oh yeah, this worked this time. Your confidence goes up, but it doesn't take into consideration all those cases where it won't be positive, right? So I don't want you to look at it really as positive or negative. I want you to just think about it as my job's to track, and I'm meeting them where they're at. And this is where they're at.
Right.
It's not necessarily because you push them too hard. You know, I can push, let's say, to quote unquote push, I can push them very hard, and I won't really know how hard I pushed until the moment that they're sharing or receiving. So if actually it's like a type 1 versus type 2 error. Most people don't push hard enough. And don't push for enactments. So the fact that you did that was really good. You got feedback. You don't get feedback if you don't do enactments. It's like if you're practicing for a basketball game with your team and you never get to play a game, you will never know where you're at. Enactments are the game. Enactments are the real world. If all you're doing is getting them to a deep place when you're working with them individually, you know, while the partner is there, it's kind of like individual work. It's not real world.
Because they haven't practiced saying it to their partner. And like,
the word, think of like, so with you, it's practice. When they look at their partner, it's real life. It's attachment. It's the game. You know, it's, you know, the whistle has been, you know, blown and they're in game time. And even though the first, second, third time, it may feel artificial in the sense that this is weird, we've never done this before. It's in a room with a stranger. We're being asked to do this. All that stuff may be true, or it's just their defense coming up and saying all these things. But when it goes well, who are they going to give all the credit to? They're going to give it all to you. And what you're going to do is you're going to say, no. What brought the response had nothing to do with me. I didn't ask you to say this in response. I didn't ask you to feel this in response. Your partner's willing to take this risk, and you look them in the eyes and you let yourself feel and stay present with their experience. That's what created this. You give all the credit back to them. Why is that so important? Is you need them and want them to be able to do this outside of the session. Right? Because most of the time, the fear after a really good enactment, oh, this won't ever happen at home. So you want to give them all the credit that they did this. Yeah, there was some assistance, but that's not what pulled out this amazing response in your partner. It's you actually taking the risk. And that's something I truly believe. When you work with enough people, you'll know it has nothing to do with the fact that I asked them to turn to their partner. It's the fact that they turned to their partner. And did it.
I see. That's really interesting. I will say that the last session, I definitely did not feel comfortable asking for an enactment. They were.
Let's talk about this last session, because I think we've built up this bad experience for long enough. So tell me what happened.
They come in on Zoom too, which makes it harder for sure.
It would be nice if your first client or first couple was a was an in-person. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get you one of those. But yeah, Zoom is better than nothing. You're getting
Yeah.
a real couple in real time, but yes,
So
there's some limitations.
had just like I meet them around dinner time, but usually they like finish cooking. But the like one of them calls and she's just on the phone by herself in the kitchen cooking something, and I can't see the guy at all.
You can see her.
Yeah, and the guy tries to enter the room on a separate phone.
And that's not how it normally is, right? They're on the same.
No, they've never done that.
So already something's up.
Yeah. But then there's like feedback because they're like close proximity, so it's not working. So he's like, okay. She, I guess, finishes up the cooking part and then finds herself on the couch, but he's still like nowhere.
So let me just pause too. So if that happens again, what I would recommend is let me know when you're both ready to start. That's all you got to say. Try not to do a session when you're working with a couple with one person. When you work with people in person, if that comes up where one person's there, I would just small talk and chit chat and don't do any real therapy until the other person's in the room.
Okay.
Because your client is the couple. So if one of them's not there, your client's not there.
Right. So I reached out, I like spoke loudly enough and I was like, hey, can you hear me, to the person walking back and forth. I tried to bring him in. At a certain point, I got them both on the couch. But yeah, so I just.
By the time they got to the couch, what was your sense of their energy or their state between them?
I'd asked like what's going on, and they just the lady that was there first was like, we're in a fight.
But you can also tell as well, right? Like just the tension.
They did not comfortable being in the same.
So what's going on in your head in that moment when you heard that?
Like, to be very candid, my thought was, oh shit, what do I do?
Oh shit, I'm gonna shit my pants.
Honestly, I was so like I'm pretty new to this. I've been reading, I've been like watching like interviews, and I was like trying to write things down, and I had some prep, and I was like, I don't even know, like,
so my hope for you in the next 20 minutes that we have left is that if this happens again, you'll be happy that this happens. You'll actually be grateful. And I'll tell you why is that you get all the information you need without asking a question.
I will say I was trying to frame it to myself that way. I did not feel it that way.
How could you? It's your first time. And like you said, in your own personal life, you're not like, oh, let's run into conflict, right? That's not what you do, right? And most people don't, right? Trust me, when I started, I was not that way either. It's actually helped me a lot to not run into fire or conflict, but to notice that it's there and be okay with it and use it as an opportunity without having to frame it that way. Because for me, it is.
Right.
Not just I have all the information in front of me, but more importantly, I know this is real. This isn't a conceptual, this is what happened to us last week. This is a live ticking time bomb that I get experience in disarming, right? With their help. And also I get to see how attached they are to each other. Until then, it's also conceptual for you. And based on the work they're able to do in the session. Here and now, when they're this triggered, I can see exactly how attached they are. People that are in, this is maybe more advanced, but people that are in more like a withdrawal cycle for years, which sometimes people come to you because they're like, we're at the end, we're about to break up. We're just going to see if, it's kind of like the sense of, we're going to see if there's something here because of all the years we have invested, but we're like hanging by a thread. We haven't had sex in years. We barely talk. It's all logistical. We don't fight anymore. Like, this is what, we're not even roommates. Like, that's how little we talk. We're just like, right? This kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those are the hardest to work with because you're having to see, like, you won't ever get them fighting. So the fact that you have this is actually a really good thing from the perspective of expedience, from the perspective of, if I can shift this in this moment with them, they're going to take a big risk. They're going to really see how this works, because if they go from where they are now to opening their heart and getting a good result, that contrast is so huge, right? That it actually builds into their next week in a really, really powerful way. That's been my experience.
Right. Yeah, I will
building
say
in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we were able to end on a good
I know.
note.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's your
Yeah.
first time. Yeah. So tell me what happened next. They're sitting on the couch, there's tension.
Yeah. So I'm working with the lady first. And so the fight was because,
let me stop you there.
Right.
Just around how you frame it. I don't think you meant to say it this way, or you really believe this. Let's put it that way. You're never just working with the man or the lady. You're
right.
always working with both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
You're always aware of both.
It was just like, I just meant she was the one that like told me about the situation.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a
no need to apologize.
Distinction to make, but so the fight had happened because she was making dinner, and the baby, when someone's in the kitchen, like likes to play around with the kitchen, and it was getting like really disruptive. So she asked her partner to take the baby, and they had talked about it before, that she just really wants him to be there, just hold the baby. But he took the baby upstairs, and she felt like that distance there at that moment, that disconnect.
Like him taking the baby upstairs is him. He didn't hear what I said. He doesn't listen to what my needs are. He disregarded it, did something on his own.
Yeah, that. And then the big thing that came out was like, she doesn't trust that he's not doing. But she thinks that he, I don't know how to put this, because I don't think like she really believes it, but she's fearful that he is cheating on her, and that like he's on his phone doing like connecting with.
Yeah, fair. So that's why he went upstairs, so that she can't see what he's doing, and
so it's not
texting someone else. Yeah,
right. So it's more that fear than it is like, oh, he's definitely doing it.
Yeah. So what made this really hard in that moment? And on a side note, I would say, when you have a live bomb, let's call this in the moment fight and the tension a live bomb, if we refer to it as that. What would you do with a live bomb that's about to explode in 2 minutes?
I would try to chuck it as far or get it as far away.
Okay. What if your job is to disarm it? You're the bomb disarmer, whatever they're called. You would work really fast, right?
I would try to, but
yes. No. So you're the expert. You're the bomb expert. You're the EFT expert, right? So the reason I bring this up is, instead of trying to understand what just happened, not important.
Okay.
What is important?
Wow, that's a
what is important is you're experiencing this in this moment right now. You've sped up to the enactment, in a sense. Not to the enactment, but to the step right before the enactment. In EFT, we call this step 3, but that's not important. Step 2 and 3.
Yeah.
All you have to ask is, what's happening for you right now?
Okay, so that's a really weird like conceptual shift for me.
I'll tell you why you do this. Either you ask or you reflect. I prefer reflecting. I would say something like, I can see there's a lot of tension right now, right? And if I notice something, because she's the pursuer, is that correct in this relationship? He's the withdrawer.
Yep.
I would say to her something like, I can see you're really angry right now. Something like that. or if that's what I'm noticing, right?
Yeah.
I pointed out her like secondary response.
Yeah.
And then she would expand on that and I would help soften her. And if I started with him, so you look like you're really shut down right now. Is that right? Or you look like you're really overwhelmed right now. Or by the look on your face, you're looking down. What's happening?
Yeah.
Just that's all you have to do. You don't need the story, because what the story does, or asking about what happened, you're taking them away from their emotions. You're taking them into their prefrontal mind.
Yeah.
And if they're already there, all you need to really do, they would love for someone to be on their channel and ask them about, or be on that channel with them. That's what you want to do. You're an alchemist. Your job is to convert their secondary to primary. They're in their secondary when they're fighting. And all you need to do is notice what their primary is. And they would love to open up to the extent that they're safe with you while their partner's there.
That's really interesting. Like, I think that makes so much sense, like looking back at my session, because like we were able to get like de-escalated, then we went back into the emotions, and it got to that place again anyways. Yeah. You have a shortcut. That's why I call it an opportunity. You have a shortcut right into it. Wow. And it's more natural too, because if it's a first session, imagine this, someone comes in, they go, oh yeah, we didn't tell you this, but he cheated on me this week. And would you go, oh yeah, tell me the story? Or would you go, oh my God, wow, that's shocking. Like, and then go into her state because she's experiencing something right now. Right. That's okay. That makes so much more sense. The number one orientation is, where is the client at right now? That includes, where is this particular individual within the dyad, and it includes, where is the relationship right now? So again, part of the advanced, but it is important, the timeline of a relationship is really important, meaning you were together 2 years. This is what your state was back then. Yeah. At some point, issues started arising, or maybe they were always there. The cycle shifted. I want to know where you're at in the grand scheme of this cycle, meaning if you were in love and everything was good in the honeymoon 3-month phase or whatever it was, and then something happened. Since then, this is where we're at, and now we've gotten here. It's really important to know where they're at. Yeah. Because in the example I gave earlier with the withdrawal couple, they weren't always withdrawal. Withdrawal is like a state that you get to when both sides throw their hands up. Usually it's when the pursuer gives up on pursuing. And withdrawer is just content to stay withdrawn. So you've got this withdrawal. Yeah. This is the environment for cheating, the environment for porn addiction, escorts, drug use, you name it. It's the environment to get your needs met in other ways other than through your partner. This is that environment if it's not resolved or some kind of intervention is brought on. Right. Okay. Yeah. Speaking of that, though, I think that like that was the big like thing that happened near the end too of our session, where like the emphasis on the phone like really like just came out. And what do you mean, like the escalation, like the energy, like the yelling, or what do you mean? Yeah, so like in the beginning they were okay they were talking about it, and the phone wasn't that big of an issue. Sometimes there was like some like tense staring, and then when we like got back to that like emotional state again, which now it sounds kind of silly to go back down to come back up, like that's when it really like there was more like interrogation. Like the partner would just turn to each other and they'd be like, isn't this what you did? Like on both sides? Interrogation on both sides? interrogation more on the pursuer, and the
Mm.
guy, he would be like, but he would match that sort of energy level.
He'd be defensive. Yeah.
Yeah, but he would like, yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't just come shut down there.
Yeah. Well, remember, a withdrawer is not just withdrawing,
Yeah.
right? There's either defense, so they're feeling attacked. When a withdrawer feels attacked, they attack back, they defend. When they're overwhelmed, I mean, we'll say underlying, often they're overwhelmed. When you're overwhelmed, right? Fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
What do? You fight back, that's defend, right? You freeze, that's shut down, right? And you flee, that's withdraw. Fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah. So, and then the phone came out, because apparently a year and a half ago-ish, he had like DM'd somebody on Instagram, like a model on Instagram or something.
Right. When you say the phone came up, you mean like someone brought out their phone and showed?
No, like just the issue of the phone. Just
I understand.
Just like blew up. If the phone became the bomb, you know, like that just came out.
Right.
And I had like.
So she brought up all these things he did last year around.
Yeah. Or she brought up that he did the thing, and that there's just no way that she can trust him with the phone. He was like, I didn't even take the phone up with me. I came down, that the phone was there. Like, yeah.
So a cycle started in front of you, basically. Yeah. So your job is really just to go, what's happening here? It's no different than the fight and the energy when they started. So go, oh, so there's a trigger, like to yourself in your own head. There's a trigger right now in the room. Something just happened, and they're lost in the cycle. Yeah. If you understand that to yourself, there's lots of directions you can go. You can say, look, you guys are lost in your cycle right now. This is good. This is exactly, you can say, thank you for letting me into this. Is this kind of stereotypical of what might happen when I'm not here? We go, yeah. So let's try to slow down and try to understand what happened. So we were talking about this thing a moment ago, and now we're talking about what you did on the phone, right? There must have been a trigger there, but let's find out. So you are talking about this phone, you are defending it and saying, no, that's not what happened. Okay, that's what's happening. And then of course, how they're saying it and all the context around it. Right. And you pick who you want to start with. Yeah. Right. If you started with one person, maybe you go to the other, or there's lots of ways to find out who to start with. You can go, who do I think will be able to be more primary right now? Who's more in touch with their primary emotions? Yeah. You go there and go, so let's say I pick her just because. And I go, so he right now is saying he didn't do it. And then I notice you going, no, you did, blah, 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 the pointing the finger. Okay, what are you hearing right now from him when he says he didn't do it? And then there you go, launch into the step 2, 3. What do you hear? So you hear that he takes no accountability and he wants to cheat, and you know what I mean? And he's going to do it again, and he doesn't love you. Like, you're hearing all these things. What's that like right now? Right now in this moment, when you consider that these things are what he's saying to you right now, right here, right now, in this moment. And that's what's going to bring up the primary.
And would you be dealing with that, like, regardless, like, because this is clearly like a bigger issue, like it's like a thing that she's latched onto for a bit. Would you deal with that just like that, like a normal sort of cycle happening, or would you?
Depends. If it's happening in the moment in the room, I would use that as the opportunity, right? Okay. Right. If that doesn't work, and we've done that a couple of times, meaning there isn't any healing around this thing you say she's clinging onto, I would frame it more as there's some attachment injuries around it. Yeah. And attachment injuries are like traumas. Yeah. They aren't just something that you can, even if she wants to trust. Yeah. Because he's doing all the right things. Yeah. It's trauma. Yeah. She's triggered by all these things. Him going upstairs with the baby, right? This is a trigger. She doesn't want to be triggered. She wants the trust. But it's bringing up the trauma. Yeah. So if it doesn't work, then we look at the original trauma. We don't work with what's happening right now. Most of the time, if the trauma is not too big, you can just do the first piece.
Okay.
If it keeps coming up, that means this attachment injury needs to be addressed head on, in a sense. Head on meaning, tell me about this night when you found out. Let's bring us back to that.
Yeah.
Sue wrote a really good, it's like a 7-page instruction manual on attachment injuries.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
Yeah. I didn't know how to frame it. Like clinging, I guess, sounds like a bad word, but like it's something that she has trouble getting over.
It comes up a lot. Yeah. It comes up a lot. She gets triggered by it a lot. Yeah. Usually, the reason for that is not because of what happened. It's because she was betrayed earlier in her life. And this is reopening up that wound.
I see.
She finally trusted, someone, and it happened again.
Right.
And now all that pain from her childhood gets projected onto her partner's actions and onto her partner, and the difficulty to begin to trust after that.
Right. And then that I guess, so that feeling of betrayal made it. Right. Okay.
So you think of the word trigger, I won't get too much into it. What does it mean? We're not triggered right now in this moment. It's happening right now. But trigger, the way I see it, is we're being sent back to a moment in time where that wound originated. We act from that place. Whatever we learned to cope with in that moment,
right,
that's where we're back into. Even in from the perspective of like what's happening right now, you're not here in the room. You're back when you were 10, 5, whenever it was. And you're acting from that place. Whatever tools you developed at that time, those are the tools you're utilizing right now. And you don't even know it.
Okay.
That's where the power of coming back into the room and that question of what's happening right now. When you think, like right now, I'm asking her, tap into right now, where are you? If they're in their head, they're going to be they're going to be acting from the barrier, from the coping, from the past blame and all that kind of stuff, the tools, the coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
If you ask them to sit with what's happening for you right now, it's going to be hard. But when you think to yourself, for example, he cheats, he's upstairs with the baby because he's texting someone else, and you take that to mean, because that's not necessarily what's happening, but you take it to mean that he doesn't love you.
Yeah.
What's that like right now to think to yourself, my partner of 2 years that I have a baby with, and you slow your voice down, doesn't love you, right? That's what's going to bring her back in the room and connect it to her primary experience.
Right.
So a lot of it has to do with your willingness to go down with her.
Yeah.
And your invitation to let herself feel, and the container you create that allows her to believe that she'll get a good response if she allows herself to go down. Now, how down we go, how deep we go, how vulnerable we get is a question of like degrees, right? You don't want to get her to risk beyond what she's capable, but most people don't risk beyond what they're capable anyways. That's what those coping mechanisms are for in the first place, is to protect themselves. So they're not going to go deeper than what they're able to be rejected for.
I see. Okay.
They're bracing for the bad.
Right.
So they're only going to allow themselves to go as deep as they're willing to get hurt by. Especially people with trauma, which is why you have to go extra slow, and the risks have to be what we call thin sliced. We thin slice the risks.
Yeah.
So we'll have to end it there, but I'm happy to set up another one. I think maybe you want to have more of these so that you have a plan kind of for each session. But I think you're doing great because they're coming back, and it means that both their attachment is strong enough and you're doing we'll call it a good enough of a job for them to see promise.
Right.
Yeah, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, next few weeks I'm doing the EFT, the EFT
The externship?
yeah, externship.
Wonderful.
So
yeah, you're
hopefully I
going to
get-
join a few of you. Byron's going to be there. A few of my past students. Yeah, so I'll be there as well for the first 2 days. So we'll see you there.
Get a bunch of tools there too. So
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
it's great that you're welcome. It's great that you started working before the externship. It's so different when you come in and haven't worked with a couple, and then you're learning all this theory and you don't have anything to apply to. So even though you've only worked with one couple, it will be so much more impactful for you, because you're going to go, oh, that's going to answer this question I have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you're trying to catch where your client is at, the training will catch where your holes and blind spots are to fill in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, super
All right.
excited for that. Thank you again for today. Super helpful.
Anytime.
To just go through.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, just send me a message. Maybe in 2 weeks we'll do another one.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
I'll see you then. See ya.
Okay. Bye.